Oh, boys and girls, I was lucky enough to be invited down to the Sports Interactive offices this weekend just gone for some pretty big news. Probably the biggest news we've ever had as a Football Manager community. FM25 is being billed as the first true sequel they've made in decades and will include new graphics, new user interface, new animations, the introduction of women's football, and not just that, but FM24, the one that's going to be coming out later in this year, is introducing backwards compatibility. Your save games will be able to be played from FM23 into FM24. There's lots to unpick. There's just been a massive blog post released on the Sports Interactive website. Let's have a look to see what they've had to say, eh? Oh, folks, I think I've got a lot of the news out there in the intro. As you can tell, I am very, very excited. If you're excited too, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on. I release daily Football Manager videos. I've been doing it for many years. Obviously, that will continue through FM24, through FM25, and all the exciting things still to come. And as you're about to find out, there's lots more announcements still to come over the coming months and year or so. So you want to be subscribed to the channel to make sure you find out about those things as soon as they are announced. I will always make sure to try and get the breaking news out just as soon as it breaks. But yeah, as I said, went down to Sports Interactive this weekend just gone. Loads of creators came down. We had a lovely old time. The blog post that you've just seen that's been out for about half an hour or so on the SI website, that was actually read out to us on the day, and we've had a few days to kind of digest it. I've got a copy of it in front of me now as well, and we're going to kind of dig into some of those details and get a real feel for what's going on. I mean, the headlines you've already had. It's a very exciting time to be a Football Manager player, not just for the FM25 stuff that's on the horizon, but I've got to believe they wouldn't be announcing the FM25 stuff that's still 18 months away. They wouldn't be announcing the FM25 stuff now if they weren't pretty confident that FM24 was going to deliver in a way that some people might have felt FM23 maybe didn't. So let's dig into the blog post and have a look to see what was said. Now, I am having to do this off of my own notes because at the time of recording, the blog post isn't actually on their website, although I've seen it, I've read it, I've had it read to me, I've made lots of notes. So we're going to be doing this off the back of my notes and just basically pulling out the key things. There was a lot going on. So it starts off with them talking about the huge success of FM23. I know there are elements of the Football Manager hardcore community that maybe felt that FM23 didn't hit the mark. It didn't feel like a massive leap forward the way some versions of the game have in the past, and we're going to get to why that is in a minute. They actually addressed that, but despite all of that, it's actually been a hugely successful year for Sports Interactive and for the success of the Football Manager franchise as a whole. This time last year, they had a player base of about 2 million players. As of right now, there's a player base of about 5 million players. They have doubled their player base and then some in a year. Now, a lot of the credit for that has to go to the launch of the game for the first time on PlayStation 5, the Apple Arcade game. But, I mean, it's increasing everywhere, I assume. I can't imagine there's 3 million players. Except there's not going to be 3 million PlayStation players, surely. Full disclosure, wasn't given the breakdown of the numbers, so don't know for sure. But I assume it's rising on every platform. And 5 million people, that's a lot of people. I think we can up our subscriber goals here on the channel. Now we know there's 5 million people out there interested in Football Manager. But 5 million people, that's a successful year. And they also mentioned that there were features that were due to be in FM23 that were dropped relatively last minute because they weren't ready. It's probably why FM23 ended up feeling a little light on new features. So I assume, again, assumptions here, got to try and read between the lines a little bit, but you've got to assume that those features that were dropped from FM23 should be coming in FM24. They didn't actually give us much about FM24. The event was really about announcing the FM25 stuff that we'll get to in a little while. If you just want to jump forward to that, I'll put timestamps down in the description below so you can just jump forward to the FM25 stuff if that's what you want to know about. But yeah, we didn't find out a lot about FM24, but we do know FM23 felt a little bit feature light, and those features are probably going to be announced in the near future for FM24, which will hopefully feel like a little bit more of a meatier version of the game. And on that topic, they are billing FM24 as the most complete version of Football Manager that they've ever released. They're talking about it as the last of its kind, the last chapter. It's actually the 20th anniversary of the Football Manager name, which makes me, as someone who started playing way back in the early Championship Manager days, the fact that Football Manager, the shiny new version, has been out for 20 years now. I am a very old man, but they do seem genuinely excited about how good FM24 is going to be. They mentioned that the vast majority of the team at Sports Interactive are currently working on FM24, so although they've got this FM25 project that exists, the focus at the moment is making FM24, the game that comes out this year, as good as it can possibly be. And leading with one of the most requested features ever is not a bad way to go about doing that. Backwards compatibility finally arrives in FM24, which, put very simply, means you can take your FM23 save game, load it up in FM24, and just pick up where you left off with all the new features that are going to be in FM24. And that's going to work across all platforms. That's not just a PC and Mac thing. That's going to work on the console versions. That's going to work on the Apple Arcade version. It says all platforms, so I assume that includes FM Mobile as well. I mean, we might need a little bit of clarity on that one, but it says all platforms right there in the blog. I've underlined it. So all platforms, I think, means all platforms. You're going to be able to do your backwards compatibility. And not just that, even though the game is being completely rebuilt in a new engine for FM25, the one that comes out next year, the plan is still for your FM24 saves to be able to roll forward into that as well. This isn't just a 1 year thing, the backwards compatibility. The plan is for this to be the standard going forward. You're going to be able to load up your old save games in new versions of Football Manager, which is really, really cool. I'm already planning a massive expansion to the lollujo Cup in FM24. And of course, backwards compatibility of saves is massively important if you play on Xbox Game Pass or Apple Arcade in particular, because on both of those services you lose access to FM23 shortly after FM24 comes out because the licenses expire. You saw it on Xbox Game Pass last year. FM22 disappeared as FM23 dropped. So if you're midway through a save on FM23, you don't have to rush to get it finished before the new game, because you can just carry it over into the new one. It's probably not something that's going to massively affect my content other than the aforementioned lollujo Cup. But if you are a more casual player who takes several years over a save and you're playing on one of these subscription services, you now get the new features. You didn't get them before. That's really cool. And then, of course, the FM25 announcement that is buried like halfway through the blog post, but is obviously the most exciting thing. It's a thing I've plastered over the thumbnail of this video. FM25 billed as the next chapter and promised to be like nothing we've ever played before, Football Manager wise. They've got a new game engine. It's all very technical, but there's a new game engine that is going to be powering it. It's called Unity. You don't need to know too much about what Unity is or how it works, other than the fact that Unity is an actual games engine that actual games are made in, and not just something that, with the greatest respect in the world, they've thrown together at Sports Interactive to make Football Manager games. This is a video game thing. This is a way games are actually made, and what it will lead to is the ability to do much better graphics, which is something obviously everybody has been crying out for a long time. And they gave us a little bit of background in this blog post of exactly what's going on with that. They actually started working on this project back in January 2020. Let me make sure I get my dates right. So they've been working on this since January 2020, and the plan had been to release a brand new look version of FM for FM22. So over a year ago, nearly 2 years ago, was supposed to be the new shiny updated version of the game that we're now getting for FM25. But something called a pandemic happened. They didn't go into detail on what that meant. I assume that's more computer game developmental terminology. But something called a pandemic happened, which apparently delayed things a little bit and gives us a little bit of further explanation for why FM23 in particular felt a little light on features, because it was never supposed to exist in the form that it's existing in. They were supposed to be doing the all singing, all dancing, fancy new Unity version in FM22, and that never happened. So I imagine that led to some development difficulties within the studio, which, I mean, seems understandable to me. So ultimately, as a result of the pandemic and just figuring out how much of a big job this was going to be, they ended up pushing that new all singing, all dancing version of FM forward, not to FM24, but to FM25, the one that comes out in the autumn of 2024. Video game naming conventions are dumb. And the promise is, and I am looking at where I've highlighted and circled bits in my notes, the fact that they're moving to Unity, let me get the actual wording, should lead to new graphics, an updated user interface, advanced animations, and the introduction of women's football, which we were first told was coming a couple of years ago now. That's been a little while that's been in the works as well. So we're getting a completely new look game, new match graphics, new player and ball animations, and a new user interface. According to the blog post, the graphics haven't had an update since 2017, so a graphical update, as we all know, is long overdue. The user interface, they haven't even put a date on, because I think it's that long ago. They've said it was before that. I actually, thinking back, has there ever been a significant user interface change since it's been Football Manager? Has it potentially been 20 years? I think there was a time when we had the menu across the top of the screen and they moved it down to the side at some point. I don't even know if that even counts as a user interface. It's looked and controlled the way it's looked and controlled for as long as I can remember. I couldn't pick a specific version that had a significantly different user interface, but that's all going to change as well. The player animations, I've got some notes on that in here as well. They're focusing in particularly on ball physics and player locomotion, with the ultimate goal to try and make it look more like real football. They want the players to move like footballers. They want the balls to move like footballs. And they actually talk about the new animation technology being part of a multi-year shift, so we will actually start to see some evidence of that in FM24, although the bulk of the changes are planned for FM25 and beyond. And there is talk as well about new graphical models, new stadiums. We're finally getting the stadiums updated, new surrounding scenery, which might mean the end of the multi-storey car park with one ambulance parked in it, or that little park bench that sits behind the goals. Sometimes we might be in the last throes of enjoying those, so make the most of them while they're still around, boys and girls. But even with that not happening until FM25, they are talking about FM24 should look better than FM23. I've not seen it. I don't know. They didn't show us that much. But the blog post says FM23 should look better than FM24. Who on earth am I to argue? One thing that is worth noting, again, picking out bits from this 2,000 plus word blog and my notes that I've made on it, the Unity changes at the moment don't impact FM Mobile. So if you're an FM Mobile player, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. All other versions are covered. FM25 on PC and Mac, on console, on touch, so the Apple Arcade, the Switch, presumably, I think is FM Touch. All of those versions will benefit from the new Unity development and the improved graphics, the new user interface, all that kind of stuff. FM Mobile, they've just talked about addressing it in the future. So I think the plan probably is to do it at some point, but they're not committing to a date yet, which is fair enough. And ultimately, I played FM Touch via Apple Arcade on my phone a little bit this year, and it works fine. So if you're one of the Apple Master Race, it don't matter anyway. We don't need no mobile. It's fine. I mentioned before women's football finally being added for FM25. That was announced back in FM21 initially. I wonder if that all singing, all dancing version of FM22 was originally going to have it in and they've been sitting on that waiting for Unity. That's not clear. I would be surprised if that was the case, because in the original announcement they talked about it being a longer term project. So either way, we're getting women's football in FM25 along with all of this other stuff as well. But on a sad note, we're not going to find out any more FM25 information this year. They've talked about the next updates on FM25 not coming until Q2 of 2024, so up to a year away. I think we're still just on the back end of Q2 right now, but maybe as soon as 9 months. So the focus from there shifts back to FM24, the one that comes out this year, and we got not much information. I guess we've got more information than we get in a normal year. Normally by this time of a game cycle, they've not even confirmed the next one's coming, and they certainly haven't given us a feature. So we know FM24 is coming. We don't know when. We know one feature, the backwards compatibility, is going to be in there, and we know that the graphics are going to be a little bit improved. Not the massive overhaul, that comes next year, but it should look a little better than FM23. But other than that, we know nothing. We'll hopefully find out more soon. Like I said at the start of the video, subscribe to the channel, and as soon as we do know more, I will drop a video letting you know what I know. But FM24 later this year, and I imagine if the existing way of doing things is anything to go by, we'll start hearing new features dropping usually late August, early September time, and then the game usually comes out like October, November time. I promise I have no additional information. I am purely speculating, and in fact, I've signed an NDA so tight that if I did have any information, I wouldn't be allowed to speculate. So the fact I am speculating should confirm I genuinely don't know. They didn't tell us. I have no idea, but I'm kind of excited. My initial reaction when they read this blog post out, being completely honest, my initial reaction was panic, because it seemed very FM25 focused, and I was worried that FM24 would just be a sort of stopgap filler game, and we're just kind of going to be treading water for a year and a half waiting for the big sequel, the big update. But having reread the blog post a couple of times now and allowed it to digest, like I say, I've had a couple of days to sit with this and work it through. I genuinely believe they wouldn't do this now unless they were confident in FM24, because it would be a disaster. Imagine announcing all these awesome changes for a year and a half away, and then a month or two later saying, oh, and by the way, the game you've got to spend £40 on this coming year, not very good, but buy it anyway, we like money. And I just can't imagine them doing that. So I've got to believe, without having any additional information, that we should see an improved game for FM24 and then a massively improved game for FM25. And that's exciting. But don't just take my word for it. Let me know what you think. That's what the comments section is for. So we'd love to see what you've got to say about today's announcements down in the comments section. We can get a little bit of a chat going. If we get deep enough into the weeds with a conversation, we might even make a follow-up video where I highlight some of your thoughts on some of the changes that have been announced today, because it is the biggest change, the biggest shift in Football Manager in a generation. I'm not even exaggerating. We've not had a change like this since the shift over from Championship Manager to Football Manager 20 years ago. So this is a big deal, and I'm going to be making a big deal of it, because obviously it's my job. Make a big deal about it too down in the comments section. But for now, I will leave it there. Obviously, there's no normal video today. Man City episode 38 or whatever it is, you'll just get drowned out by all this news today. So that series will be back tomorrow. But let me know what you think. I'll be live on Twitch tonight playing some Minecraft, but happy to chat about this more over there as well. And yeah, we'll leave you there. If you did enjoy it, please leave a thumbs up. Like I've said a few times now, make sure you subscribe to the channel as well so you don't miss out on all the upcoming Football Manager news over the coming months and year or so. And thank you very much for watching.